waking up buried alive, your nails scraping desperately against the wooden lid of your coffin, screaming into the suffocating dark while the world above carries on, oblivious. That's not just a nightmare. It's the real horror that befell a man in 19th century Wilmington. And it might explain the chilling blue orb that one woman saw hovering like a silent plea for survival. Tonight, we plunge into the abyss of 9 true paranormal encounters, raw testimonies from ordinary people thrust into the heart of the unexplained. These aren't fairy tales. They're gut-wrenching brushes with forces that twist reality, from glowing apparitions to invisible hands that grip and shove, forcing us to question if death truly ends anything, or if it just traps souls in an endless, vengeful echo. Prepare for a descent into history soaked in tragedy, where the dead refuse to stay silent, and the living are left scarred forever. We start in Wilmington, North Carolina, a coastal city scarred by centuries of storms, slavery, and sudden, brutal deaths. Its streets whisper lost souls, from shipwrecks that claimed hundreds, to epidemics that turned graveyards into overflowing pits of despair. But beyond the history books, Wilmington's cultural grid lies in its role as a melting pot of fear and folklore, where southern ghost tales blend with Native American legends of restless spirits wandering the fog-shrouded shores. This isn't just about old buildings. It's a place where the paranormal seeps into everyday life, turning casual walks into confrontations with the unseen. Skeptics might dismiss it as wind or imagination, but the stories from those who felt the icy touch beg to differ, compelling accounts of whispers in empty rooms and shadows that move with purpose. At the core of tonight's terror is the supernatural phenomenon of orbs, those ethereal lights said to carry the essence of the dead, manifesting in hot spots, like the ancient graveyard beside St. James Episcopal Church, a site infamous for burials gone wrong. Our first witness, a young woman drawn to the city's dark underbelly, joined her dad and sister on a ghost tour, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. She recounts her encounter in her own words. "I squinted, thinking that it was a light coming from inside of the church. I was confused because I instantly began to wonder why in the world a completely dark church would have a blue light in one of its windows. Now, at first, I didn't think it had to deal with the paranormal. Not at all. I was just trying to figure out why the blue light was there." As the group shuffled past the graveyard's crooked tombstone, the tour guide launched into the gruesome tale of Sam, a man from the 1800s whose life ended in a cooker of despair. After a heated argument with his fiancée, Sam stormed off on horseback, only to tumble into the snow, striking his head on a low-hanging branch. Found frozen and lifeless the next day, he was buried hastily in that very graveyard. But the horror deepened. Sam wasn't dead, just trapped in a coma, his body consigned to the earth while his mind screamed in the long darkness. That night, Sam's friend Alexander bolted awake to a spectral figure at his bedside, Sam himself, begging to be dug up. Terrified but compelled, Alexander grabbed a shovel and unearthed the coffin. Inside, Sam's body lay twisted, fingernails embedded in the wood, evidence of his frantic, futile fight for air. The guide wrapped up the story with a modern twist. Paranormal investigators had captured blue orbs on tape in the graveyard, dismissing them as bugs. But the timing chilled our witness to her core. It was then that I realized earlier I had seen a dark blue orb hovering near the church window. A blue orb. Coincidence? I didn't think so. When I researched the meaning of dark blue orbs, the internet offered 3 possibilities: shielding, shyness, and survivor instinct. For me, it clicked. Sam, buried alive, possessed an incredible will to survive. This experience transformed a casual ghost tour into a chilling, personal encounter. This orb wasn't just a flicker. It pulsed with an intense energy, a survivor's cry echoing through time. Skeptics could argue camera glitches or reflections, but the emotional weight, the raw fear in her voice, lends it a credibility that dry science can't touch. As tension mounts in Wilmington's shadowed alleys, we sense the buildup. What if Sam's spirit isn't alone, clawing at the veil between worlds? Shifting north to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, where the ground is soaked in the blood of over 50,000 Civil War casualties, a battlefield that birthed a nation but left behind a legacy of agony and unrest. This isn't mere history. It's a cultural scar, influencing everything from literature to modern reenactments. A place where the echoes of cannon fire mix with tales of phantom soldiers marching in the mist. The supernatural here thrives in hotspots like the Jenny Wade house, where tragedy struck a civilian amid the chaos, her death amplifying the site's reputation for poltergeist activity, objects moving, voices calling out in the void. Doubters point to battlefield stress or hoaxes, yet the flood of eyewitness reports, from touches to apparitions, paints a picture too vivid to ignore. At its heart, the phenomenon revolves around spectral lights and physical manifestations, drawing seekers into a web of fear and fascination. Our second witness, vacationing with her family, had already endured enough ghostly nonsense from a haunted hotel stay. But curiosity pulled her into the Jenny Wade house. Jenny, the only civilian killed in the Battle of Gettysburg, met her end while baking bread, a stray bullet piercing her home and her heart. The house now stands as a monument to that loss, with reports of a little boy's ghost on the stairs and unseen hands brushing visitors. In the basement, our witness sat alone, boredom turning to unease as she noticed something impossible. While everybody was on the other side of the basement, looking at this whole ghost section for the house, I was on the other side sitting on a bench. I was bored and was blowing my bangs out of my face when I noticed the chain blocking off an area moving. I rolled my eyes and walked up to it. Yep, it was moving for sure. I squatted and stared at it. It just kept on swinging, and not just a little. It was moving a good bit. Now think about this. The chain is coming out of a brick wall, so something had to be moving it with her hands. She summoned her mom and 2 elderly couples wielding an EMF detector, their excitement clashing with her skepticism. Then chaos erupted. All of a sudden, one of the grandmas goes,
"Whoa, did you see that?"
Her friend turns to her and replies,
"Yeah."
"It looked like this orange streak of light or something." Now, I had heard of these, but I had only heard of catching them in pictures. These ladies had actually saw them with the naked eye. I was like, dude, that's so cool. Why can't I see some? But of course, I didn't get to see any. Meanwhile, while this was happening, the chain was still a-swingin'. an orange streak visible to the naked eye, dancing amid the swinging chain, like a burst of intense energy from the cooker of despair that claimed Jenny's life. The emotional arc here twists from boredom to awe, then frustration, underscoring the unpredictable cruelty of the paranormal. As the chain's rhythm built to a frenzy, it climaxed in a sudden stop, leaving the group breathless, the air thick with unspoken terror. Gettysburg's ghosts don't just haunt. They demand attention, pulling the living into their eternal strife. Now, across the continent to Alcatraz Island, a fortress of isolation where America's most dangerous criminals rotted in cells overlooking the tantalizing lights of San Francisco. A cruel taunt that drove many to madness or suicide. This rock isn't just a prison relic. It's a cultural icon of punishment's dark side, inspiring films and books that romanticize its horrors while ignoring the lingering spirits born from despair. Hotspots abound, like D Block's solitary cells, where inmates reported demonic attacks, and the morgue, a chamber of finality echoing with unseen sobs. Skeptics blame isolation-induced hallucinations, but the sheer volume of consistent stories, from guards to tourists, challenges that view, with anecdotal evidence of cold spots and whispers too precise to fabricate. The core supernatural draw, residual energies that manifest as overwhelming fear, forcing visitors to confront the long darkness of the damned. Our third witness, touring with her husband, felt the island's oppressive weight from the ferry, the fog rolling in like a shroud. She ditched the audio headset to listen raw, noting the eerie absence of children, a detail that soon turned sinister. I mention the lack of children because my first experience involved hearing children laughing and playing in the area between the door to the outside recreation area and the mess hall, nicknamed Times Square. There also is the stairway to the upper floors of the A block. I heard them twice as we walked around that area. Laughter of children on Alcatraz? No records of child inmates, but digging revealed a tragic link. During the 1969 Native American occupation, a 13-year-old girl plummeted 3 stories down that stairwell to her death. The sounds echoed like a playful taunt from beyond, building unease. Then, in D Block, the real horror unfolded. The first cell on the ground floor is just like all the others in the prison. It was here, though, that I refused to enter. My husband wanted to get a picture of me behind the bars, but I could not allow myself to enter this cell. Twice he insisted, and twice I said, "Fuck that. I'm not going in there." I felt a fear like I've never known, and a complete aversion to take even one step inside. This wasn't cell 14D, infamous for a prisoner's demonic murder, which she entered with only sadness. No, this cell's energy was a vortex of terror, an intense force that gripped her soul. The climax came in the morgue, a barrage of emotions: disgust, sorrow, joy, loneliness, fear, then relief, like a spirit's final release. Alcatraz's ghosts don't whisper, they scream through feelings, leaving scars that time can't heal. Sailing south to the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California, a once glamorous ocean liner now docked as a hotel. Its decks stained by wartime tragedies and mysterious drownings. This ship embodies a bygone era of luxury tainted by death, culturally significant as a symbol of transatlantic travel's golden age. yet cursed with tales of crewmen crushed in engine rooms and passengers lost to the sea's fury. The first-class pool is a notorious hotspot where the ghost of Jackie, a girl who drowned in the 1940s, plays eternal games. Skeptics cite creaky old structures and group hysteria, but photos and EVPs provide tantalizing counterpoints, stories of voices and touches too real to dismiss. The phenomenon centers on captured apparitions, invisible to the eye, but frozen in images, bridging doubt and belief. Our fourth witness, celebrating her anniversary with her husband, joined a late-night paranormal tour as a skeptic, expecting mere entertainment. As we entered the first-class swimming pool area, my husband, another teenager on the tour, and myself heard in a little girl voice, "Daddy." That the guide invoked Jackie with divining rods, and a tour member's hands turned icy as the rods pointed nearby. Our witness saw nothing, but later, her photos revealed a figure she swears is the girl. When I got home, I downloaded my photos of the trip and discovered what I believe is Jackie on my camera. I have 2 photos. From skepticism to stunned acceptance, the emotional arc peaks in that revelation. A dramatic climax where technology unveils what eyes miss, turning a fun outing into a haunting memory. The Queen Mary's spirits lure with innocence, only to trap in wonder's grip. Venturing to Sydney, Australia's Manly quarantine station, a relic of the 1830s where immigrants died in droves from plagues, their bodies dumped in mass graves. This site's cultural weight lies in Australia's immigrant history, a reminder of isolation's cruelty. Now a draw for those seeking the paranormal amid its decaying buildings. Hot spots like the shower blocks pulse with oppressive energy, where visitors report physical sensations and orbs. Skeptics blame suggestion and old infrastructure, but matched experiences from strangers defy that, with anecdotes of breezes and pains too synchronized for coincidence. The core, empathic connections where the living feel the dead's anguish directly in their bodies. Our fifth witness, with her boyfriend, joined an extreme ghost tour, her subtle sensitivity to spirits heightening the dread. We went to a small shower block which was situated underneath a dining hall. I was in the first group to go in, and as I walked through the door, I was immediately drawn to the left of the room. I felt a cool breeze whoosh from around waist height up to my face. It wasn't cold, just cooler than the rest of the room. I stood there with my arms by my sides, and I just felt this weird sensation in my hands that I can only describe as pins and needles. It was so different to anything I've ever experienced. It wasn't scary or anything, just different. Her boyfriend felt the exact and her mother, Kathleen, encountered earlier. In the cinema, Henry appeared to two separate groups unknowingly. The machinery room erupted with taps and groans. In the machinery room, Lisa, Paul, Maria, and Marion stood open-mouthed as they experienced for the first time the sounds of extreme table tapping and scratching from underneath the table on request. The tapping was heard very clearly and was especially audible to those who were there in the room. Also in the machinery room, distinct groans were heard on several occasions, which were heard by several ghost hunters in the machinery room. Tables tipped on command, one sliding unassisted, a climax of spectral strength that left hunters in awe. Armley's dead don't haunt passively, they converse, demanding recognition in the cooker of despair they once endured. Nearby, Warmsworth Hall in Doncaster harbors spirits from its stately past, perhaps servants or lords trapped in resentment. Its cultural echo lies in Britain's class divides, with investigations revealing thrown objects and unscrewed tables. Hot spots like the attic buzz with taps and shadows. Skeptics attribute it to environmental factors, but K2 spikes on request and name repetitions via Frank's box challenge that. The core, unpredictable interactions, reminding us spirits operate on their own terms. In the bar room, a table slid across the floor, shocking witnesses. The attic seance brought taps, touches, and a rocking table. In the attic, during a seance, tapping was heard on request, eventually manifesting on the table itself. Karen and John both felt as though they had been touched on the arm, while Sarah saw dark shadows moving. A child's spirit communicated through glass divination, claiming to be 5 years old, and a table rocked with extreme vigor. The Frank's box echoed back, called names, a stunning climax amid debates. Yet the night fizzled, a sobering reminder of the paranormal's whimsy, intense energy yielding to silence, leaving hunters humbled. Further north, the Lawns in Lincoln, a former asylum where the mentally ill suffered in isolation, embodies the dark history of psychiatric care, culturally significant for exposing past cruelties. On its debut investigation, hot spots like the upper rooms yielded moving tables and divinations. Skeptics might say group dynamics, but unassisted movements defy logic. The phenomenon, tangible proofs that convert doubters, from dancing tables to personal revelations. In one vigil, a table glided as if on wheels, then followed a participant without touch. In a vigil hosted by Rosie, Claire, John, Maggie, and Julie, stood in awe as a table moved literally as though it was on wheels in a table-tipping experiment. Rosie then described how the table danced along the wooden floor with each participant's fingers slightly on the table. At one point, Joe, our intrepid investigator, moved further away from the table and asked the table to follow. The table duly obliged in following Joe. Then Rosie asked the group to take their fingers off the table, and they then called out for the spirits in the room to move the table. Suddenly, to the delight also of Stephen and Karen, the table proceeded to move with nobody's hands near the table. This unassisted motion changed Claire's worldview forever. Upstairs, Francesca shared her tragic story via glass, committed for an illegitimate child. A little girl's spirit teased via Ouija, while K2's spiked and equipment failed. The climax? A sobering blend of sorrow and play, proving respect unlocks the veil. Finally, Cusworth Hall in Doncaster, a grand estate with layers of history, hosted medium Chris Conway. Its cultural tie is to Victorian education and class, with spirits like teachers lingering. Hot spots include the schoolroom, alive with bangs and tugs. Skeptics question mediums, but validations like naming a living teacher stun. The core, medium-facilitated chaos, from slaps to moving benches. Chris pinpointed Mr. Trainer, a ghostly teacher, matching a guest's name and job, a jaw-dropping hit. A cupboard banged loudly, jolting the group. On the initial walk around this beautiful, grand, old building, Chris Conway, the amazing, most haunted television medium, illustrated his mediumship skills when in the Victorian schoolroom, he picked up the name of Mr. Trainer. And Chris stated that Mr. Trainer was indeed a ghostly school teacher who still resided in that area of the building. Unbeknown to Chris, there was in fact a Mr. Matt Trainer on the guest list of the investigation, who was actually a school teacher too. This discovery absolutely amazed everyone on the event. Physical assaults followed. Slaps, tugs, a bench shoving someone airborne, torches activated alone, shoulders pressed by invisible weight. The climax built to a skeptic's conversion, declaring the world's hidden depths undeniable. These 9 encounters culminate in a shattering climax, a collective assault on reality, where orbs, voices, touches, and movements converge into proof that the dead endure in a long darkness, their intense energy piercing our world. From Sam's buried screams to tables defying physics, the tension explodes into one truth. The paranormal isn't a myth, it's a predator waiting in the cracks. If these tales of buried alive horrors and spectral grips have you questioning the shadows in your own life, dive into the comments and spill your own brushes with the unseen. Those moments when reality cracked and something impossible stared back. Your story could be the next one that chills us all. And if this descent into the abyss hooked you, smash that like button. Share with a friend who needs a scare. Subscribe for more dives into the dark. And ring the bell so you never miss a whisper from beyond. Stay vigilant in the night.